You've just made a very serious mistake.
Please, I just needed shelter. I'll leave right now.
Will you? The door only opens with my fingerprint.
The steel door slammed shut behind Dora with a finality that made her stomach drop. She stood frozen in the dim entryway, rain streaming from her hair and clothes, forming a puddle at her feet. The howling wind outside became muffled, replaced by an eerie silence broken only by her ragged breathing. Emergency lighting cast long shadows down a concrete corridor that stretched before her, disappearing into darkness. This isn't a storm shelter, she realized with mounting dread. This is something else entirely. The walls were too pristine, the door too sophisticated. She'd seen the handle's biometric scanner flash red as the lock engaged behind her, sealing her in. The air smelled of expensive cologne and gun oil, an unsettling combination that made every nerve in her body scream danger. Dora's hand went to her phone, but the screen showed no signal. Of course not. She was underground, in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, having fled the worst blizzard to hit the Rockies in decades. A soft click echoed from somewhere deeper in the facility. She wasn't alone. "I don't know who you are," a voice spoke from the shadows, smooth, accented, dangerous, "but you've just made a very serious mistake." Dora's breath caught as a man stepped into the light, and despite her terror, her treacherous mind registered one overwhelming thought. He's beautiful. Tall and lean, with sharp features that could have been carved from marble, he moved with the fluid grace of a predator. His dark hair was perfectly styled despite the late hour, and he wore a black silk shirt rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms marked with intricate tattoos. But it was his eyes that held her captive, dark, intelligent, and currently measuring her like a threat. He held a gun. Not pointed at her, not exactly. Just present. A casual reminder of the power dynamic. "Please," Dora managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "I didn't know anyone was here. The storm, I saw the entrance and I just needed shelter. I'll leave right now. Will you?" His lips curved in a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He spoke with a Korean accent that made every word sound like silk over steel. "And how do you propose to do that when the door only opens from the inside with my fingerprint, and outside? Well, outside you'll die in approximately 15 minutes in this weather?" Dora's heart hammered against her ribs. "Then what do you suggest?" He studied her for a long moment, his gaze traveling from her soaked hiking boots to her drenched curls, assessing. She felt exposed despite being fully clothed, as if those dark eyes could see straight through to her bones. "I suggest," he said finally, lowering the gun but not putting it away, "that you tell me who sent you." "FBI? DEA? One of the rival families thinking they could use a beautiful face to catch me off guard." His head tilted slightly. "Though I'll admit, sending someone in during a blizzard is creative. Almost too creative to be government work." "No one sent me." Dora's fear was giving way to indignation. "I'm a photographer on assignment. I was documenting abandoned mining towns when the storm hit. I saw what looked like a shelter entrance and she gestured helplessly at the door behind her. "I made a choice between possible danger and certain death." "A photographer." His tone suggested complete disbelief. "Yes. My equipment is in my truck, buried in a snowdrift about a quarter-mile from here. My name is Dora Williams, I'm from Denver, and I swear on everything I hold dear that I have no idea who you are or what this place is." Something flickered in his expression. Calculation, curiosity, perhaps the smallest seed of belief. He pulled out a phone, tapped something, and a moment later a screen descended from the ceiling, showing multiple camera angles of the area outside. Sure enough, there was her truck, already half buried in snow, the storm raging around it with apocalyptic fury. "You walked a quarter-mile in that?" For the first time, there was something other than suspicion in his voice. "In the dark. I followed the tree line. I used to winter camp with my dad." Dora wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how cold she was. Her teeth had started chattering. "Look, I know this is, whatever this is. I can see I've walked into something I shouldn't have. But I'm not a threat. I'm just someone who made a desperate choice." He watched her shiver for another few seconds, then something shifted in his demeanor. The gun disappeared into a holster at his back and he pulled out his phone again. "Minjun," he said in Korean, too rapidly for Dora to follow. Then, switching back to English and looking directly at her, "I need women's clothes. Size." His gaze assessed her again and she flushed despite the cold, small, warm, and something hot to drink. He ended the call and gestured down the corridor. "Come. Before you catch hypothermia and die on my floor, creating unnecessary complications." "Unnecessary complications?" Dora didn't move. Is that what we're calling death now? The corner of his mouth twitched. You have spirit. Foolish, perhaps, but spirit nonetheless. I am Tae-bin Kong, and you are currently standing in my private sanctuary. A place no one outside my inner circle knows exists. Which means, Miss Williams, if that is indeed your name, you and I have a problem. We have a problem? Yes. Because I believe in being direct. He took a step closer, and Dora fought the urge to back away. I'm not a good man. I run an organization that operates outside the law. This facility contains evidence that could put me away for life. And you, lost photographer or elaborate spy, have just stumbled into the one place I cannot allow to be compromised. The implications hung heavy in the air between them. So what happens now? Dora asked quietly. Tae-bin's expression was unreadable. Now you get warm, you get dry, and we wait out the storm. And then we'll see if your story holds up. If it does. He paused. We'll discuss what comes next. And if it doesn't? His smile was sharp as a blade. Let's hope it does, Miss Williams. For both our sakes. He turned and walked down the corridor, clearly expecting her to follow. Dora stood frozen for one more heartbeat, weighing her options, all of which were terrible. Then she squared her shoulders and followed the beautiful, dangerous stranger into the depths of his hidden fortress. How did I get here? She thought desperately. But she knew exactly how. It had started 3 weeks ago with a job offer and a lie. Dora, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Dora stared at her editor, Marcus Chin, across the cluttered desk of Rocky Mountain Life magazine. Outside the Denver office windows, the city sprawled beneath a crisp October sky, beautiful, normal, safe. You want me to spend 3 weeks in the backcountry photographing ghost towns, she said slowly. Alone. In late October. When the weather's about to turn. When the light is perfect. Marcus gestured enthusiastically at the mock-ups spread before them. Abandoned mining towns, forgotten histories, the intersection of human ambition and nature's reclamation. It's exactly the kind of work that could get you into National Geographic. Dora wanted it. God, she wanted it so badly she could taste it. At 28, she'd been grinding away at local assignments for 5 years. Weddings, corporate events, the occasional landscape spread. This was different. This was art. This was recognition. I'll do it, she heard herself say. Marcus beamed. Fantastic. I'll send you the route and the locations. Some of these places haven't been photographed in decades. You'll be documenting history. What he didn't mention, what neither of them knew, was that one of those locations sat just a quarter mile from a secret bunker owned by the most dangerous man in Colorado's criminal underworld. The first 2 weeks went perfectly. Dora had documented 7 ghost towns, capturing the haunting beauty of buildings succumbing to time. Her portfolio was growing stronger by the day. She'd even braved an early snowstorm, getting dramatic shots of abandoned mine entrances frosted with ice. She'd felt capable, strong, independent. Then came Silver Point. The weather report had called for light snow. Instead, a freak blizzard had blown in from Canada, turning the mountain roads into death traps within hours. Dora had tried to make it back to the main highway, but visibility dropped to nothing. The wind was strong enough to rock her truck. She'd been genuinely afraid, checking her phone every few minutes and watching the signal bars disappear one by one. The temperature was dropping fast. She'd read about people dying in their cars in Colorado winters, found frozen just miles from help. When she'd spotted what looked like a concrete entrance partially hidden by snow-covered brush, it had seemed like Providence. Storm shelters were common in this part of Colorado, relics from the Cold War era. She'd assumed it was abandoned, or at worst, that she'd apologized to some survivalist prepper for the intrusion. She'd never imagined she'd stumble into the lair of Tae-bin Kong. The bunker was vast. As Tae-bin led her through corridor after corridor, Dora's photographer's eye cataloged details despite her fear. This wasn't just a shelter, it was a luxury fortress. The concrete walls were lined with dark wood paneling. Recessed lighting provided warm illumination. They passed rooms filled with expensive furniture, others stacked with what looked like shipping containers marked with symbols she didn't recognize. Finally, they reached a living area that looked like it belonged in a 5-star hotel. Leather sofas, a full bar, artwork that was probably worth more than her annual salary. A man emerged from a side door, Korean, older, his face expressionless. He carried a bundle of clothes and a steaming mug. "Thank you, Minjun," Tae-bin said, taking the items. The older man's gaze flicked to Dora, assessment sharp as a knife, before he nodded and disappeared. "The bathroom is there." Tae-bin pointed to a door. "Change. Warm up." The tea is ginger, it will help with the cold. Dora took the clothes and tea, hyper-aware of how close he was standing. Up close, he smelled like sandalwood and something darker, more complex. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. In the bathroom, because of course even the bathroom was luxurious, Dora stripped off her wet clothes with shaking hands. She caught sight of herself in the mirror, brown skin ashen with cold, dark eyes too wide, natural hair plastered to her skull. She looked terrified. Because you are terrified, she reminded herself. This man is dangerous. But he'd also given her dry clothes and hot tea. Which meant, what? That he was civilized? Or just that he preferred his potential problems conscious and coherent? The clothes fit perfectly, soft leggings, a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than her camera. She toweled her hair and braided it back, trying to impose some order on the chaos of the situation. When she emerged, Tae-bin was seated on one of the sofas, a tablet in his hands. He looked up as she entered, and something flickered in his expression, there and gone too quickly to identify. Sit, he said. Not quite an order, not quite a request. Dora sat on the opposite sofa, cradling the tea. The warmth seeped into her hands, grounding her. I've been checking your story, Tae-bin said, turning the tablet toward her. On the screen was her website, Dora Williams Photography. Her bio, her portfolio, her social media. You are who you claim to be. I told you that. People lie. He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather. Especially people who want something. I don't want anything except to survive the night and leave in the morning. He studied her over steepled fingers. But that's the problem, isn't it? You can't leave. Not now. Not after seeing this place. Dora's chest tightened. I won't tell anyone. I swear. I don't even know what this place is. And I believe you believe that. Tae-bin leaned back, his posture relaxed, but his eyes remained sharp. However, my enemies are resourceful. If any of them discovered you'd been here, they would come for you. Interrogate you. And you would tell them everything, not out of malice but because everyone talks eventually. So what are you saying? I'm saying that you being here creates a security risk. And I don't tolerate security risks. He let that hang for a moment before continuing. But I'm also not in the habit of killing innocent civilians. It's bad for business and worse for karma. How reassuring, Dora muttered. He smiled at that, a real smile that transformed his face from beautiful to devastating. You really do have spirit. Most people would be crying by now. I cry later in private. It's a policy. A good policy. He stood, moving to the bar and pouring 2 glasses of amber liquid. He offered her one. Whiskey. Also good for warmth. Dora shook her head. I don't drink with strangers who've threatened me. I haven't threatened you. I've merely outlined the situation. He took a sip of his own drink. But I understand. Trust must be earned. Why are you being? Dora searched for the word, nice to me? If I'm such a security risk? Tae-bin was quiet for a long moment, looking at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Would you prefer I wasn't? I'd prefer to understand what's happening. What's happening, he said slowly, is that we're trapped here together for at least 12 hours until the storm passes. We can spend that time as adversaries or we can be civil. I choose civil. He raised his glass slightly. Unless you do something to change my mind. Dora found herself relaxing fractionally. Not trusting him, she wasn't that foolish, but the immediate terror was fading. Civility works for me. Good. He settled back into his seat. Then perhaps you'll tell me what possessed you to take an assignment that required you to be alone in the wilderness in late October? It's my job. I'm a photographer. That's what you do, not why you do it. His gaze was uncomfortably perceptive. You could photograph weddings in Denver. Safe. Warm. Predictable. Boring, Dora corrected. I want to make art. I want to show people things they've never seen, make them feel things they've never felt. Ghost towns, abandoned places, they're beautiful and tragic. They tell stories about hope and failure and time. Memento mori, Tae-bin said softly. Remember you must die. That's dark. But true. We're all just waiting our turn to be forgotten. He swirled his whiskey. Though I suppose we fight it differently. You with your camera, preserving moments. Me with... He gestured vaguely at the bunker. Other means. What other means? Curious. Terrified, Dora admitted. But yes. Also curious. Tae-bin laughed, a genuine sound that seemed to surprise even him. You're unexpected, Miss Williams? Dora. If we're being civil, call me Dora. Dora. He said her name carefully like he was tasting it. Very well. And you may call me Tae-bin, since we're being civil. The storm howled outside, but inside the bunker, something strange was happening. The fear was still there, coiled in Dora's stomach, but it was mixing with something else. Curiosity. Fascination. The strange intimacy of two strangers trapped together. I import and export goods, Tae-bin said finally. Some legal, many not. I run an organization with operations across 3 continents. I'm very good at it, which is why I'm still alive and free. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman operating in gray markets. The moral distinction is debatable. He met her eyes. Does that frighten you? Yes, Dora said honestly. But I'm already here. Being more frightened won't change anything. Practical and brave. Interesting combination. He stood, moving to a panel on the wall and pressing something. A screen descended, showing the storm outside, a whiteout of snow and wind. We'll be here until morning at least. You should rest. The bedroom is through there. He pointed to a door. It locks from the inside. Where will you sleep? I don't sleep much. At her skeptical look, he added, the sofa is comfortable. I've spent many nights on it working. You'll be safe, Dora. Whatever else I am, I'm not a monster. She wanted to believe him. Some deep instinct said she could, which was probably the most dangerous thought she'd had all night. Thank you, she said, standing, for not being a monster. His smile was crooked. The night is young. Ask me again in the morning. Dora didn't sleep. She lay in the absurdly comfortable bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of the storm and trying to process everything. Her phone was useless, still no signal. She was trapped underground with a self-admitted criminal who happened to be the most attractive man she'd ever seen. This is insane, she thought. This is how people end up dead in true crime documentaries. But she wasn't dead. She was warm and dry, wearing cashmere, in a bed with sheets that probably cost more than her rent. Around 3 a.m., she gave up on sleep and ventured out of the bedroom. The main area was dimly lit. Tae-bin sat at a desk she hadn't noticed earlier, multiple monitors glowing before him, his face illuminated by cold blue light. He looked up as she approached. Can't sleep? Too much adrenaline. She hugged herself, suddenly self-conscious. What are you doing? Work. He gestured at the screens. They showed what looked like shipping manifests, financial records, things Dora didn't understand. The world doesn't stop just because I'm trapped in a bunker. With an unexpected guest. With an unexpected guest, he agreed. He closed the laptop and turned to face her fully. You know, in 20 years of doing this, no one has ever accidentally found this place. The odds of you stumbling here tonight in this storm? He shook his head. I'm not a superstitious man, but it's remarkable. Maybe it's fate, Dora said, then immediately felt foolish. But Tae-bin didn't laugh. Maybe. My grandmother would say so. She believed in Inyun, a Korean concept. It means destiny, but more than that. It's the idea that people who are meant to meet will find each other, across time and distance. You don't believe in it? I believe in probability and preparation. But... He paused. I'm willing to admit there are things I don't understand. Dora moved closer, drawn despite her better judgment. Tell me something true. Not the crime lord persona. Something real. Tae-bin's eyebrows rose. You think you've earned that? No. But we have hours until dawn and I'm tired of being afraid. So either really scare me or give me a reason not to be. He studied her for a long moment, then stood and walked to the bar. This time he poured 2 glasses of water. He handed her one. Something true, he mused. All right. I was supposed to be a doctor. My family had it all planned. Medical school, prestigious practice, a respectable life. But my younger brother got involved with the wrong people. Debts. Threats. I had to make a choice. He took a sip of water. I chose to protect him. And to do that, I had to become something my parents never imagined. Did you save him? Yes. He's in Seoul now, happily married, practicing law. He doesn't know what I really do. No one in my family does. There was something raw in his expression. They think I'm an international business. Import-export. They're not wrong technically. That's lonely, Dora said softly. Very. He turned the glass in his hands. Now you. Something true. Dora hesitated, then decided if she was going to trust him with anything, it might as well be honest. I'm afraid I'm not good enough. That I'll spend my whole life chasing this dream of being a great photographer and end up with nothing. No family, no security, just a collection of pretty pictures no one cares about. Your work is extraordinary, Tae-bin said. I wasn't just checking your identity earlier. I looked at your portfolio. You have an eye for finding beauty in decay, hope in abandonment. That's rare. You looked at my work? I told you, I'm thorough. He smiled slightly. And I appreciate art even if I acquire it through questionable means. Despite everything, Dora laughed. Do you steal photographs? Only hearts, apparently. The words hung between them, charged with sudden electricity. Dora's breath caught. Taebin's expression shifted, the careful mask slipping to show something intense and hungry beneath. This is a bad idea, Dora whispered. Terrible, he agreed, but he was moving closer. You're a criminal. And you're an innocent photographer who should run as far from me as possible. I can't. There's a blizzard. Convenient. His hand came up, fingertips barely brushing her cheek. The touch was electric. Tell me to stop. Dora knew she should. This was insane, dangerous, probably the worst decision she could make. But she was so tired of being careful, of playing it safe. And when she looked into his eyes, she saw not the dangerous crime lord but a man who understood loneliness, who saw her as more than just a problem to be solved. I can't, she admitted. He kissed her. It was gentle at first, questioning, giving her every chance to pull away. But Dora leaned in instead, her hands coming up to grip his shoulders as the kiss deepened. He tasted like whiskey and promises, and when his arms came around her, she felt simultaneously safer and more reckless than ever before. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Taebin rested his forehead against hers. This complicates things, he murmured. I'm good at complicated. Are you? He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. Because Dora, if we do this, if we go down this road, it won't be simple. My life is dangerous. People want me dead. And anyone close to me becomes a target. I know. Do you? Really? His hands framed her face. I should let you leave tomorrow and never see you again. It would be safer. Smarter. But. Dora prompted. But I don't want to. The admission seemed torn from him. I haven't wanted anything beyond survival and success in 10 years. And then you walk into my bunker, dripping wet and terrified, and you talk back to me and make me laugh and... He stopped, jaw tightening. And what? And I want to know what it would be like, he finished quietly. To have something real. Someone who sees me. Not the monster or the businessman or the killer, but me. Dora's heart was hammering. I see you. Then see this too. If you stay, if we explore this, I will do everything in my power to protect you. But I can't promise you won't get hurt. I can't promise this will work. All I can promise is that for however long this lasts, you'll have all of me. It was the most honest thing anyone had ever said to her. No false promises, no romantic platitudes. Just truth, raw and real. Okay, Dora said. Okay. Let's be reckless. Let's be stupid. Let's see what happens. She kissed him again, harder this time, and felt him smile against her mouth. You're going to be the death of me, he murmured. Not if you're the death of me first. They spent the rest of the night talking. Not about business or danger or the impossible situation they were in, but about everything else. Childhoods and dreams, favorite books and worst fears. Taebin told her about growing up in Seoul, the pressure of expectations, the freedom he'd found in breaking away. Dora talked about her father, who died 5 years ago, and how photography had been his gift to her. As dawn approached and the storm finally began to ease, they sat together on the sofa, her head on his shoulder, his fingers playing with the end of her braid. What happens now? Dora asked. Now we deal with reality. Taebin pressed a kiss to her temple. I'll have Minjun retrieve your truck and equipment. You'll need to leave. The longer you're here, the more risk for both of us. But this isn't goodbye. It's not? No. He tilted her face up to his. If you want this, want me, we'll figure it out. Carefully. Slowly. But we'll figure it out. I want it, Dora said. I want you. Then you have me. The next 3 months were the most exhilarating and terrifying of Dora's life. True to his word, Taebin had Minjun recover her truck. She completed her assignment, turning in a portfolio that Marcus called career-defining. The ghost town spread ran in the December issue and was picked up by National Geographic. Her dream was coming true. But her nights belonged to Taebin. He courted her carefully, always aware of the danger. They met in neutral locations. Art galleries where he was just another wealthy collector, restaurants where he knew the owners. He sent her flowers with no name attached, books she'd mentioned wanting, photography equipment she couldn't afford. They talked for hours on encrypted phone lines. He told her about his business, not the illegal details but enough for her to understand. He ran a sophisticated operation, importing goods from Asia to America. Some of it was legal: electronics, art, textiles. Some wasn't: counterfeit designer items, pharmaceuticals not approved in the US, occasionally weapons. "I don't kill people," he told her during one late-night conversation. "That's not how I operate. I solve problems with money and leverage, not violence. But I won't pretend I'm innocent. I break laws. I corrupt officials. I'm not a good man, Dora." "You're good to me," she'd replied. "That's different." "Is it?" Their first real date was at a private showing at an art museum. Taebin had rented the entire space for the evening. They walked through galleries hand in hand while he explained the history of Korean art, his knowledge deep and genuine. "This is what I would have been," he said, standing before a landscape painting. "If things had been different. A scholar maybe, or a curator. Someone who preserved beauty instead of profiting from chaos." "You still can be," Dora said. "Can I?" He turned to her, and in the soft museum lighting, he looked younger, almost vulnerable. "Once you're in this life, Dora, there's no clean exit. The best I can hope for is to survive long enough to retire somewhere quiet." "Then survive," she said fiercely. "And take me with you." He'd kissed her then, surrounded by centuries of art, and Dora had felt like she was part of something timeless. But it wasn't all romance and poetry. There were moments of stark reality. The first time she saw his scars, bullet wounds, knife marks, the evidence of a violent life, she traced them with her fingers and cried. He'd held her and told her honestly about the times he'd almost died. The ambush in Seoul. The car bomb in San Francisco. The poisoning attempt in Hong Kong. "I'm still here," he'd said. "I'm hard to kill. Don't joke about it. If I don't joke, I'll scream." He'd caught her hand, pressing it over his heart. "I'm careful, Dora. More careful now because I have something to lose." Dora had expected intensity, passion, maybe even roughness. Instead, Taebin had been achingly gentle, treating her like something precious. Afterwards, lying tangled together, he'd whispered in Korean, words she didn't understand but felt in her bones. "What did you say?" she'd asked. "I said you're going to break my heart," he'd translated, "and I'm going to let you." Christmas came and Taebin flew to Seoul to see his family. He called her from his childhood bedroom, whispering so his mother wouldn't hear. "They keep asking when I'm going to settle down," he said. "Get married. Give them grandchildren." "What do you tell them?" "That I'm working on it." Pause. "Dora, if things were different, if I were different, would you?" "Yes," she'd interrupted, knowing where he was going. "Whatever you're asking, yes." She heard his breath catch. "You don't know what I was going to ask." "Doesn't matter. The answer is yes." When he returned in January, he brought her to a safe house in the mountains. Not the bunker where they'd met, but a cabin hidden in the woods. There, away from the world, they spent 3 days doing nothing but being together. Cooking meals, watching snow fall, making love by the fireplace. On the last night as they lay in bed, Taebin said, "I'm going to make a deal. With my partners in Seoul. A way to step back from the more dangerous operations. It will take time, maybe a year, maybe 2, but I'm going to find a way out." "Because of me?" "Because of us." He rolled to face her. "I want a future, Dora. A real one. I want to wake up next to you without wondering if today is the day my enemies find me. I want to meet your mother without lying about what I do. I want—" He swallowed hard. "Everything I thought I'd given up the right to want." Dora kissed him, tasting salt. She wasn't sure if it was from her tears or his. "Then let's take it. Let's build it. However long it takes." But the universe had other plans. It started with a phone call in February. Dora was in her apartment, editing photos, when her phone rang. Taebin's private number, the one only she had. "Pack a bag," he said without preamble. "Minjun will pick you up in 20 minutes. "What's wrong?" "There's been a complication. You're not safe at your apartment." His voice was tight with controlled fear. "Don't argue, don't ask questions. Just pack and be ready." Dora's hands shook as she threw clothes into a bag. Whatever this was, it was serious. Taebin never panicked, but she could hear the edge in his voice. Minjun arrived exactly 20 minutes later, his face grim. He drove her to a hotel downtown, led her to a suite, and left without a word. Taebin arrived an hour later, and Dora had never seen him look like this, disheveled, exhausted, with blood on his sleeve. "Oh my God, are you hurt?" She rushed to him. "Not my blood." He caught her hands. "Dora, listen to me. One of my partners in Seoul was arrested. He's talking to prosecutors, trying to make a deal. My name came up. They're going to connect me to operations in the US. The FBI? Among others." He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I've been preparing for this. I have exit strategies, money hidden, identities established. But it's going to get messy before it gets clean. What about us? That's why you're here. He pulled back to look at her. They're going to investigate everyone connected to me. Your name might come up. Our relationship might come up. And I need you to understand, if they question you, tell them the truth. What? Tell them we met by accident, that you didn't know what I did. It's not even a lie. His hands framed her face. Don't protect me, Dora. I can handle law enforcement. What I can't handle is you getting caught in this. I'm not leaving you. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking you to stay safe. He kissed her forehead. This is the life I warned you about. The danger I promised was real. And now it's here. The next weeks were a nightmare. Federal agents showed up at Dora's apartment, asking questions about her relationship with Tae-bin Kang. She told them the truth. They'd met by chance, started dating. She hadn't known about his criminal activities until recently. It wasn't technically a lie. She really hadn't known the details. Her mother called, frantic, having been contacted by the FBI. Her editor put her on leave, until things settled down. The National Geographic opportunity evaporated overnight. They couldn't be associated with someone connected to organized crime. And through it all, she barely saw Tae-bin. He was fighting battles on multiple fronts: legal, financial, territorial. His organization was fragmenting as partners jumped ship or tried to seize control. He sent Minjun to check on her, called when he could, but mostly he was absent. Dora felt herself slipping into depression. Everything she'd worked for was crumbling. Her reputation was in tatters. And the man she loved was disappearing into a world of shadows and violence. Then one night in early March, he showed up at her apartment at 2 a.m. She opened the door to find him soaked with rain, his face bruised, his eyes haunted. I killed someone tonight, he said flatly. Dora's blood went cold. What? One of my former partners. He tried to have me killed and I defended myself. He looked at his hands as if seeing blood there. I've never killed anyone before. I've hurt people, yes. Threatened them. But I've never. She pulled him inside, locked the door. Are you okay? Are you hurt? I don't know. He sounded lost. I don't know anything anymore except that this is destroying everything. My organization, my future, you. Not me, Dora said fiercely. I'm still here. You shouldn't be. But he let her lead him to the bathroom, let her clean his wounds, let her hold him as he shook with reaction. Later in her bed he said, I have a choice to make. The feds have offered a deal. I testify against my partners in Seoul, give them the bigger fish, and I walk with immunity. Or I can run. Disappear. Start over somewhere they can't find me. What do you want to do? I want to take you away from all this. He turned to face her. There's a place. New Zealand. I have money there, a house, a life waiting. We could go. Tomorrow. Never look back. And if we stay? If we stay, I fight. It gets uglier. More dangerous. And you'll be caught in it no matter how careful we are. Dora thought about everything she'd built in Denver. Her career, her relationships, her home. All of it already damaged, perhaps beyond repair. But she thought about her father's last words to her. Don't let fear make you small. I don't want to run, she said finally. But I don't want you to be someone you're not. If you need to disappear, we disappear. If you need to fight, we fight. But we do it together. Tae-bin's expression crumpled. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you've got me anyway. Tae-bin chose to fight. Over the next month, Dora watched him transform. The smooth criminal operator became a warrior. He took the FBI's deal but on his terms: selective cooperation, strategic testimony. He gave them enough to take down the corrupt partners in Seoul while protecting the people who'd been loyal to him. It was brutal. He spent days in interrogation rooms. His name was splashed across newspapers. Crime lord turned state's witness. Old enemies came out of the woodwork. There were threats, attempts on his life. Minjun took a bullet meant for him. But slowly, incredibly, he won. The feds got their arrest. Tae-bin got immunity. His legitimate businesses, and there were more than Dora had realized, were restructured and cleaned. The criminal empire was dismantled, but the man emerged intact. Damaged, changed, but intact. In April, as cherry blossoms bloomed across Denver, Tae-bin took Dora back to the bunker where they'd met. I'm selling it, he told her as they stood in the entrance where she'd first stumbled in. All of it. The properties, the businesses that can't be legitimized, everything connected to that life. What will you do? I've been offered a position at a Korean art foundation. Consulting on acquisitions, helping museums identify authentic pieces. It's respectable. Boring even. He smiled slightly. Perfect for someone trying to disappear into normalcy. You'll hate being bored. Maybe. But I'll love being safe. Being free. He took her hands. Being with you without fear. They walked through the bunker one last time. Dora took photographs, documenting this chapter before it closed. When they reached the living area where they'd spent that first long night talking, Tae-bin stopped. I had a plan, he said. When I brought you here today. I was going to take you to a fancy restaurant, hire musicians, make a grand gesture. But this is where it started. Where you walked into my life and changed everything. So this is where it should happen. Dora's heart started pounding as he knelt. Dora Williams, Tae-bin said, pulling a small box from his pocket. You are the bravest, most foolish, most wonderful person I've ever met. You saw me at my worst and somehow found something worth loving. You stood by me when everyone else would have run. You made me want to be better, to do better, to build something real. He opened the box. The ring inside was simple, a single diamond on a platinum band, elegant and understated. I can't promise you a perfect life. My past will always be there, and there will be people who judge you for being with me. But I can promise that I will love you with everything I have. I will protect you, cherish you, and spend every day trying to be worthy of you. His voice cracked slightly. Will you marry me? Dora dropped to her knees in front of him, tears streaming down her face. Yes. God, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger with shaking hands, and then they were kissing and laughing and crying all at once. I love you, Dora said against his mouth. I love you so much it terrifies me. Good, Tae-bin replied. We can be terrified together. They were married in June, in a small ceremony at a botanical garden in Denver. Dora's mother was there, still wary of Tae-bin but willing to accept him for her daughter's sake. Tae-bin's family flew in from Seoul. His parents, his brother, aunts and uncles who'd been horrified by the news reports but were cautiously optimistic about his new life. Minjun stood as Tae-bin's best man, his arm still in a sling from the bullet he'd taken. Marcus Chun came, having rehired Dora and published a photo essay she'd done on second chances that had gone viral. The ceremony was simple. Dora wore a dress she'd found at a vintage shop, cream silk with delicate lace. Tae-bin wore a perfectly tailored suit. They wrote their own vows. Dora, Tae-bin said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, you walked into my life during a storm and you've been my shelter ever since. I promise to be your safety, your adventure, and your home. I promise to choose you every day in every way. I promise to build with you a life worth photographing, full of beauty, truth, and love. Dora could barely speak through her tears. Tae-bin, you've shown me that the most extraordinary moments come from the most unexpected places. You've taught me to be brave, to be bold, to trust in fate and love and second chances. I promise to stand beside you in every storm, to see you, really see you, every day, and to love you not despite your past but because of everything it's made you. When they kissed, their guests erupted in applause. At the reception, Tae-bin's grandmother, a tiny woman with steel in her eyes, took Dora's hand. You saved him, she said in accented English. I knew when I saw the news, when everyone else was afraid, I knew someone had gotten through to him. That was you. He saved himself, Dora replied. No. The old woman smiled. He saved himself for you. There's a difference. During their first dance, Tae-bin whispered, I have a wedding present for you. You've already given me enough. Not this. He spun her gently. I've arranged for us to go to New Zealand for our honeymoon. That house I mentioned, the one I had waiting? It's ours now. I thought, maybe we could use it as a second home. Somewhere to escape when the world gets too heavy. Really? Really? I want to give you the world, Dora. Starting with a quiet beach where no one knows our names and our biggest problem is which wine to have with dinner. She laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. That sounds perfect. You sound perfect. He kissed her temple. My wife. Say it again. My wife. My love. My unexpected gift. They spent 3 weeks in New Zealand in a house overlooking the ocean. They hiked, explored, made love and talked about their future. Tae-bin started sketching again, something he hadn't done since college. Dora took hundreds of photographs, capturing not abandoned places but living ones filled with hope. On their last night they sat on the beach watching the sunset. Do you ever regret it? Tae-bin asked. Everything you gave up to be with me? Dora thought about her old life, the career she'd planned, the safe choices she'd almost made. No. Everything I gave up was worth less than what I found. What did you find? You. A love story that started in a bunker during a storm and turned into this. She gestured at the sunset, the ocean, the future stretching before them. I used to think I wanted to document other people's stories. But it turns out I wanted to live one worth documenting. Taebin pulled her close. Then let's make it a good one. Full of adventures and quiet moments, challenges and triumphs. Let's make it epic. Deal, Dora said, and kissed him as the sun set over the Pacific. Dora stood in the gallery, her heart pounding with nerves and excitement. The walls were covered with her photographs, a year-long project titled Shelter. Images of abandoned places juxtaposed with images of home, safety, love. The centerpiece was a triptych. The bunker entrance during the storm, the same entrance in spring covered with wildflowers, and finally, a photo of her and Taebin's hands intertwined, their wedding rings catching the light. It's extraordinary, the gallery owner said. We've already had 3 museums express interest in the collection. Dora couldn't quite believe it. After everything, the scandal, the setbacks, the fear that her career was over, here she was having her first major show. Taebin appeared at her side, looking handsome in a dark suit. How are you feeling? Terrified. Excited. Grateful. Good combination. He kissed her cheek. I'm proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. You could have, he corrected. But I'm glad you didn't have to. The doors opened and people began flowing in. Critics, collectors, friends. Dora's mother came with her new partner. Taebin's family, now fully reconciled to their son's choices. Minjun, who pretended not to be touched when he saw Dora, had included a portrait of him titled, Guardian. As the evening wore on, Dora found herself standing in front of the centerpiece triptych. A couple stood beside her, young, probably in their 20s. This is my favorite, the young woman said to her companion. Look at the progression. From fear to beauty to love. It's like a visual poem. What do you think it means? The man asked. Dora couldn't help herself. I think it means that sometimes the scariest doors lead to the best rooms. That shelter can come from unexpected places. And that love, real love, is worth every risk. The couple looked at her, startled, then smiled. That's beautiful. They moved on and Taebin slipped his arm around Dora's waist. Eavesdropping on your admirers? Sharing wisdom. She leaned into him. Do you ever think about that night? If I'd made a different choice, gone a different direction? Every day. His arm tightened around her. And every day I'm grateful you chose my door. Best worst decision I ever made. Agreed. He turned her to face him. Ready for the next adventure? What adventure? Life. Marriage. The gallery show that's about to make you famous. His smile turned mischievous. Maybe someday tiny humans who will inherit your courage and my questionable decision-making skills. Dora laughed. One thing at a time. One thing at a time, he agreed. Starting with celebrating your success tonight. As the evening ended and the last guests filtered out, Dora and Taebin stood alone in the gallery surrounded by images of their journey. From storm to shelter, from fear to love, from 2 strangers to 2 souls intertwined. Thank you, Dora said softly. For what? For being in that bunker. For giving me shelter. For being exactly who you are. Taebin kissed her, slow and sweet and full of promise. Thank you for being brave enough to walk through that door. And for seeing me even in the darkness. Always, Dora promised. In darkness and in light, in storms and in calm. Always. And as they left the gallery hand in hand, stepping out into the warm summer night, Dora thought about fate and choice, about the storms that shape us and the shelters that save us. She thought about the photographs she'd taken and the life she'd lived, both more beautiful than she'd ever dared to imagine. Some love stories begin with a meet cute or a swipe right. Theirs had begun with a blizzard, a bunker, and a desperate choice that had led to everything. And she wouldn't change a single moment. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy our stories, you can join our membership by clicking on the link in this video description box.